back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And this is a somewhat special video, but first, of course, I've got to let you guys know I will be doing a live reaction or a fight companion to Island Fights 46 tonight, the return of Roy Jones Jr. It's a mix between boxing and mixed martial arts on the same card, going down tonight on Fight Pass. So I'm going to be doing a live reaction to that, or a fight companion. Also fighting on the card not only is Roy Jones Jr., but Felony Charles Bennett. You might know him from his old name, but Charles Bennett's on the card. So with that being said, let's get into this video. Is Cris Cyborg a pay-per-view draw? Or is she a bigger pay-per-view draw than Amanda Nunes? That's the million-dollar question for me. Now let me explain why. Cris Cyborg, a lot of people act like it's just guaranteed a bigger draw than Amanda Nunes. Now I don't know if they're just saying that because someone has said it and they're repeating it, or if there's facts to prove that Cris Cyborg is a draw compared to Nunes. So I went ahead and just did the research myself and looked up the facts, and I'm not seeing it. I don't see how people can say Cris Cyborg is so much of a bigger draw than Amanda Nunes. Now, I'll give you guys all the details, but keep in mind, this is why I'm doing this video now. It's a somewhat special time. Cris Cyborg just stepped in to face Yana Kunitskaya, I don't even know her name, at UFC 222 to save the card. So now we will see, is Cris Cyborg a draw? You might be thinking, oh, that's not fair. She's taking the fight on, stepping in at short notice. They don't have time to properly promote her. Yeah, no, that doesn't work here. Let me explain why. Cris Cyborg said she didn't want to fight Amanda Nunes in the past because she wasn't a draw. And I always had that argument, well, how do we know Cris Cyborg's a draw? She fought Holly Holm with Khabib on the card. Holly Holm and Khabib can probably sell more pay-per-views than people would expect. So it has to do with, let's say, because Cris Cyborg used UFC 215. Look, Amanda Nunes only sold 100,000 pay-per-views at UFC 215. Take into consideration the politics of UFC 215. Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg was supposed to happen at 213. Got canceled. So the main event, or the co-main event, ended up being Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg. And the rest of the card, you couldn't remember any of the fights. It was a very underwhelming card. Not to mention, Demetrius Johnson, who doesn't sell pay-per-views, had a rescheduled fight on that card. So yeah, UFC 215 wasn't a big card. But my thing is, you can't just look at UFC 215 and say, look, Amanda Nunes doesn't sell pay-per-views because she didn't sell that entire card. Because when you look at Amanda Nunes, she's outsold Cris Cyborg numerous times. And you can say it's because of who was on the card or her opponent, but you can do that same type of nitpicking with Cris Cyborg. Look, Amanda Nunes versus Ronda Rousey sold over 1 million buys. Yeah, you can say Ronda Rousey sold those pay-per-views. Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate, over 1 million buys. There was no Ronda Rousey. Oh yeah, but Brock Lesnar was there. Okay, Amanda Nunes was the fucking headliner, and I get it. Short notice, everything happened. John Jones got pulled off the card. It was UFC 200. Amanda Nunes sold another 1 million pay-per-view buys. John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 2. Cris Cyborg still wasn't able to sell 1 million pay-per-view buys on that card, and that's with John Jones, Daniel Cormier, Tyron Woodley, Damian Maia, and Tanya Evinger. That fight had Cris Cyborg's card at UFC 214 had 3 title fights, and they didn't crack 1 million pay-per-views. Cyborg versus Holm. That's the fight where she's like, look, most recently, she fought Holly Holm, UFC 219, and sold 380,000 pay-per-views. But you can't just give all of those pay-per-view sales to Cris Cyborg, because Holly Holm was on the card. Khabib was on the card. Edson was on the card. It was the end-of-the-year card. Dominic Cruz was supposed to be on the card, but Jimmy Rivera, Cynthia Calvillo, I can literally name the entire UFC 219 card. That's how good the card was. And Cris Cyborg only sold 380,000 pay-per-views. So my question is, where is the proof that Cris Cyborg is just way more of a draw than Nunes? Because Nunes sold bad one time versus Shevchenko when Demetrius Johnson was on her card? Well, if you want to use that, then you have to be fair and point out that Amanda Nunes has outsold Cris Cyborg before. Now you can say, oh yeah, but Cris Cyborg fought Lena Landsberg and drew in over 1 million viewers on free TV. Okay, if you want to go that route, you're really just a Cris Cyborg stan at this point, unless you got some hardcore facts, because for one, it was free TV. For two, we don't know what was going on around that time. It could have been there's nothing else to fucking watch except for Cyborg Landsberg. I mean, there's all type of stuff you would have to go into, but all I'm saying, when you're talking about pay-per-view numbers, Amanda Nunes has sold way more pay-per-views than Cris Cyborg. That is just a fact, and you can point to the card, but you can do that with Cyborg's fights too. You want to say Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar sold Nunes' pay-per-views, then you can say Khabib and Holly Holm sold Cyborg's pay-per-views. So in my mind, neither one of these chicks are probably a huge draw, and that's what Cris Cyborg knowing has to know that, because if not, she would just fight Nunes and sell the pay-per-views, like when Ronda Rousey did it, or when Miesha Tate did it. You can sell pay-per-views with Nunes if you're a big enough draw. And if not, then you do need to be put on a big card, which is what Cyborg was saying. She wanted to be at UFC 226 with Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic, Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, the Super Bowl of MMA, 3 champion versus champion super fights. Of course, there's Cris Cyborg, and every other champion would want to be on that card because it's going to do numbers. And with that being said, it is what it is. That's what I think this all comes down to. Cris Cyborg wanting the biggest payday possible. She says Amanda Nunes isn't a draw, but there's no proof to prove that Cris Cyborg is a draw. So all of these champions, the Demetrius Johnsons, the Tyron Woodleys, all of the champions that aren't big draws themselves, any of the champions that's not fucking Conor McGregor, they would love to be on Conor or Ronda Rousey's cards, or super fight cards, champion versus champion cards, so they can get a share of pay-per-view shares that they necessarily didn't sell. Because if Amanda Nunes gets put on UFC 226, or I mean Cris Cyborg, she's going to get a percentage of the pay-per-view sales, and they're going to sell a lot of pay-per-views because it's the Super Bowl of MMA. But how much of those pay-per-views did Cris Cyborg or Amanda Nunes sell? Who knows? But they're going to be getting a slice of the pie. So with that being said, it is what it is, man. I just wanted to bring this video to you guys because I know I've seen multiple people like go with the narrative. No, Cris Cyborg is a draw and Nunes isn't. No, I don't think either one of them are a draw in that sense. Neither one of these girls are going to sell 300,000 pay-per-views by themselves. But stack the card and anybody can do it. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you're thinking in the comments. And I'm not fucking lowballing it when I say anyone can do it. If you put me in the co-main event of a Conor McGregor card, I'm selling pay-per-views. Guess why? Because Conor's buying them all. And then I'm going to get pay-per-view points because I'm on a Conor card. Or put me on Stipe Miocic, DJ, TJ. Put me on the first fight of the pay-per-view. It doesn't matter who's on the first fight, or the second fight, or the third fight, really, because the pay-per-view's sold. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments, and make sure you tune in for my live reaction of Island Fights 46 tonight. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.